And we're just about set for Australia's 100th international on home soil. Will it be their 81st win today? And pretty short money on that one, having won 77-40 and 82-41 so far.
A great start from the Australian captain, who had great position and got up to a ball that was dropped a little short to Cindy Gametti.
So Cox, Avellino, who has not quite made the wing attack position her own, but a lot of faith being shown in her by Norma Plummer, as Catherine Cox picks up where she finished off in Adelaide.
Well, that's the danger girl, Catherine Cox. She came on at half-time for Australia and turned the game around. She shot brilliant stats as we look at Australia's overall score in that second test. Flew out to 82-41.
A 29-goal last quarter. It was
the last quarter that really allowed that goal line.
27-0 against South Africa, and 16-0 in Australia. Australia a little more experienced, with an average of 25 and a bit caps per player.
But as we were saying, it's Kath Cox that really is the danger person. She put up 30 goals at 88%. Compare that to Sinner, who played the first half of the game with 19 goals for 66. Hence Catherine's introduction to the start of this game. And whilst we praise South Africa's defence combination in that second test, they didn't have to contend with a McMahon-Cox combination.
Cox over to the corner.
Little cheeky at Avellino, eyes to the floor, indicating that she didn't need to go for that ball because her opponent was offside, scampering through the circle.
Well, you'd want to hope that the umpire sees it the way you do, and on that occasion, that Avellino was right. She makes her way to the top of the circle again and delivers a ball precisely to Cox, and an ominous start.
Cox really holding her ground then, allowing Avellino to get a good look at where the space was.
They're just really a bit stuck in the centre third. South Africa releasing Malusi now, and across to Gametti. That's a good ball.
Great ball.
On the retreat.
That one more like the ones we saw at the start of the second quarter. You've got to admire, though, South Africa with significant changes from the end of 2004, when they last played England, the third test of 3 in December. Different shooting combination. They had Christine Markgraf shooting, different mid-court, and they've rejigged the back line. So significant changes for them, and I think this is the best we will see of their contingent that they've brought to Australia.
Moshoga back to Janse van Rensburg, and McMahon put beside. And Gametti, oh, not quite. They are looking to get it to her quickly. And Gametti will take that, a little mishandle in the hands of Natasha Chocolate.
Oh, and she intercepts the ball that's to Moshoga, but it really had them covered, either one. Exactly, their whole forward line is set up to deliver to Cindy Gametti. And Gametti there with the turnover to give South Africa possession, having lost it over the baseline. And the woman who started it will finish that passage.
So Gametti 2 from 2. Chocolate drives with Bomberto.
Contact going against Moshoga, who didn't release the space to allow Natasha Chocolate to land. Chocolate playing in her 25th international. Lizzie Ellis, the most capped on court. She is 1 test away from equalising Vicky Wilson's record of most capped Australian player ever. It was suggested to her when she reached her milestone of 100 that with a bit of sucking up and staying away from injury, she might reach that during the year.
There were some lovely hands between Moshoga and Gametti, who was surprisingly short on the attempt. Won't be the second time.
South Africa just starting to get the feel in this game. 3 on the trot for them as Moshoga fires a beautiful ball. Australia not expecting the low line delivery.
It's almost a pass from the hip.
It's interesting, Steve, with Liz back at keeper and Demelza Fellows at goal defence. In the last test, Gametti was available and exposed more. Norma Plummer swung that at the end of the first quarter, brought Liz forward, sat Demelza Fellows with her height back on Gametti. I wonder whether the same will need to happen with the Chatfield-Ellis combination.
She doesn't have to get too much air under the ankles, Gametti, to beat Ellis and Chatfield for the rebound. She's got such a great reach.
Her elevation doesn't really sit there on the repertoire of skills, but the reach and the timing. And we mentioned last game her confidence on the take and her strength really improving with each outing.
So 4 straight for South Africa after Australia opened up with the first 4. McMahon.
That blur was Sherelle McMahon.
Yeah. Still looking after an ankle to some extent. And Cox anchors the left foot. And from handy position.
This is the settler for Australia. You see there after some initial confusion the blinding speed of Sherelle McMahon as she drives the base. There's no question about Sherelle's speed. It's a matter of mixing up the pace and the way in which she plays her attack. South Africa constantly through Malusi are looking to play a quick play on taking of the centre pass. You remember that in the second test, Simi went a couple of times with a whistle for not being wholly grounded in the centre circle. She looks to have made an adjustment.
Ellis caught out of the circle. But, they didn't really look to capitalise on that immediately, but they've worked it around well to find Mashoga.
Well, Australia covered the first option well. They double-teamed on Gamedi, but they had Chatfield really the one working on the high ball, so they'd done a positional switch back in the circle.
Tipped out by Detoy, so Avellino's ball in the corner. 6-5, promising start from South Africa, particularly seeing as they saw the first 4 goals go through without answer.
Well, that really is a new level of confidence for them, that recovery. In previous matches, that 4-goal start for Australia would be whipped out to a wider margin, but you've got to be impressed by their ability to stay in the contest at this level. And what a take from Gamedi, who finishes.
Another strong display of hands from Gamedi will please Marlene Wagner, who was left shaking her head on many occasions in the last 15 minutes in Adelaide and swatted down by Alicia Janse van Rensburg.
Good vision by her. She wasn't drawn to the player. She watched the ball and the positioning of the feed. Detoy
can get a little stuck on this transverse line and turn it over. McMahon tried to deliver to Kath Cox. And that'll be a South African ball. No penalty there.
Good work from Australia in the mid-court. They packed the middle and created that fullness, which led to the turnover, but just not able to finish. They're a little unsettled in the circle. A bit too much speed.
Just can't clear that goal third.
See Catherine Cox pushing the ball out until they can find McMahon.
Mashoga. Costa Malusi. And 2 on Gamedi. That probably asked a little bit much.
Again, great work by the Australian defence, but a poor choice by South Africa in the feed. Mashoga was open.
And Chatfield snaffles that one. Natasha Chocolate across to Von Berto. Avellino wide to Chatfield. And it was a little untidy, but it found the mark with the backup from Von Berto to McMahon, and out it comes. And that was Janse van Rensburg's ball, so the penalty to South Africa.
This is a dramatic step up for South Africa. When you consider how they finished that second test, they absolutely chased from go to woe in that final quarter, but they're there contesting in this one.
Masuali, the captain, finds Mashoga.
Better option. The use of Mashoga starts to pull apart the Australian double teaming on Mashoga. That's when things will open for South Africa.
And up to 8-7. Big welcome to our viewers in South Africa through Super Sport. Hope you're enjoying this third and final test. And I think Marlene Wagner will take the team back with plenty of positives and things to work on. And Norma Plummer, she knows that she'll be back here in 12 months with the team, hoping to get another Commonwealth Games gold medal and hoping that it's not quite as tight as it was in Manchester 4 years ago. We have double overtime.
Double overtime. Looking to go triple.
Chatfield looking for Catherine Cox. Bomberto. Well-placed ball for McMahon.
Good defensive pressure from both Chocolate and Liz Ellis, who runs it down.
Catherine Cox just managed to lose Janse van Rensburg.
They've just been caught out with the timing of that back move by Catherine too earlier. She pulled the move, but it came too soon and there was little room to the baseline.
Catherine Cox, 79% in the first test in Perth in half a game, 88% in Adelaide in the second.
No sooner do we mention her using the back space and the drop to the post, and Australia have changed the leads in goals. They've brought Cox forward on offer with McMahon working the move to the post.
So McMahon, Cox in the corner. Avellino called for it. Now she's available to McMahon. And
well, McMahon's move cut off the access to Cox. I just wonder if they're not trying too much, the Australian shooters. Moving it to the corner was great. The McMahon front cut it. The move was on to Cox.
Break against the Australian goal defence. Chatfield.
First quarter's being played at great speed. Just love to see them take a breath and have a wider picture of what's happening so that the options can fall into place in the Australian attack.
And Gametti given the shot virtually at the post. After the transgression by Bianca Chatfield. And 2 penalties against her and 3 against Ellis in the opening period. And more penalties against the Australians, 9-6, which is a little surprising. And Australia's total also restricted somewhat. 3:45 to go in the first and just 14 goals. A good, perhaps a better defensive effort from South Africa. Suwali looking for Mashoga. Top of the circle, finds her. Back out to the captain. Gametti trying to set up a good hold position and then darts along the baseline.
It's crisscrossing all over the place, but they come away with it. It interests me because an Australian style wouldn't see the alternate mid-quarter drive across the face of the circle. It almost cuts off access to the shooter. But South Africa almost do it as a set play. And it's a little confusing, but it does pay dividends ultimately.
Saw it in Adelaide, didn't we?
We did see it. I think we made the same comment.
Suwali cross to Mashoga. 2 looking after Gametti.
Again, you see one of the feeders cross right in front of the shooter. Takes extra passes, but again, the low delivery to Gametti.
As soon as they can draw one of the defenders away from Gametti, it opens it up nicely.
So I think it works for them when they put the extra pass in and swing it side to side, but not cross the top of the circle.
Umberto and McMahon juggles and takes and goals for 8 out of 10 in the first quarter. 8 apiece actually for the 2 goalers. Lizzie's been working hard on the hair.
And Kat Cox. We noticed some of the braids coming in the second test. A few more cornrows for Melbourne.
McMahon.
It'll be a look, Steve, at least that will carry them well through this match into tonight to their appearance at the Wizard Cup and beyond the weekend.
Yeah, off to the football tonight.
Drills are being shown off at half-time. Carlton takes on West Coast Eagles. And I understand last night Australia hosted the South African team to dinner. Federation Square, so a lovely touch between these 2 teams across the series. I think both sides conscious of the need to develop the sport internationally and for the top powers to open relations. So she's first to double figures. Gametti's got 7 from 11 for South Africa and Cox 8 from 9. 2 straight from Mashoga. Masuwale. Oh, Gametti. Good quick ball movement. Tapped out by Ellis and gathered by Chatfield. Chocolate drives it to Avellino. Oh, Cox. Ambitious. Well, I think
Janse van Rensburg picks up the scraps.
I think the idea from that Avellino was a good one, just to hold up the ball, have a look. Perhaps the wrong choice in the timing of giving it to Kat Cox, but instead of running it down fast break all the time, the mix was nice.
Now the holding call against Chatfield will give Mashoga the chance to give to Gametti.
Yeah, not a stray shot, it was an offload.
Yeah, she was never likely to shoot when Gametti had a one-on-one.
Gametti a little unsettled in goals in this 3rd test. Her accuracy down. She's shooting at 57%. And I think put that down to the hard work being put in by Chatfield and Liz Ellis in combination.
Lucy, nice work with Mashoga. Chatfield makes up with a rebound. Lucy and Chocolate having a collision, not for the first time. So last few seconds of the first quarter. Bomberto finds McMahon. Need to be quick to get this one away. They've taken too many seconds. No, they haven't. Now, just got that last goal in. That is quarter time. The players didn't quite realise it straight off, but
leaving them out as long as she can.
Set for the start of the second quarter then, and Bomberto picks up Chatfield.
Australia have started, sorry Steve, on a closed circle. You just saw then the two shooters playing back in the circle, waiting for the ball to be brought down, which immediately caused adjustment to the South African defence, who followed suit.
Detoy, Swale, Malusi. Just need more options sometimes, don't they? But that's partly down to Australia's defence.
That option for South Africa will usually, in the way that they set up their game, come from their goal attack, Meshoga. Because of all the attention that will naturally be paid to Gumedi, when they're stuck, she usually is free around the fringes of the circle as a last-minute offload.
Avellino, Cox top of the circle. Oh, great ball, Avellino. It was probably above and outside the line, but taken surely in the left hand of McMahon.
Well, it's good watching by Nat Avellino, who very briefly will see an attempt at a screen. You see McMahon change her mind, front cut, and the baseline drop. So options are plenty and well read by Avellino.
Gumedi. Checking the elbow, and she's got her 10. And McMahon is on 12 from 14. The Australian shooting is pretty good in this final test.
It's been mixed across the 4 Australian shooters across the series. Sinna Neal at 66% in the last test, and she's been around that mark in previous tests.
Meshoga.
I think also Anderson. Anderson was at 79, which was a fine stat, but certainly below McMahon and Cox. So some variation across the 4.
Contact against Detoy. Avellino waits for the move, comes from McMahon, who finds Gaff Cox on the baseline, and who's got that rebound. It bounced twice on the ring, which put the timing off a little. Australia takes possession.
Alicia Janssen van Rensburg at times gets caught with the head down, watching the player, not the eyes up. And the last 2 balls went shooting past her. Her eye was on the shoulder of Kath Cox.
So lead of 10 for Australia. Lead at half-time in Adelaide. Second test was 15. They'll be working towards and beyond that. Would be Norma Plummer's request, I'm sure, and to keep it under that for Marlene Wagner. Bomberto finds McMahon, just a bit quick off the line for Janssen van Rensburg. And a bit quick to get back to the post, too.
Good news so far for South Africa. In each of the previous tests, there's been a trend in the amount of possession, and Australia have enjoyed double that of South Africa. At the moment, Australia with 30 attempts and South Africa 22. So they're really staying in touch with the amount of possession they're providing their shooters.
Masuali runs it down after the tap out. Oh, and she was offside, I'm afraid, Bomberto.
Well, smart work by Nat Bomberto. She is aware that they're using Meshoga as the decoy. She's running the front of the circle, trying to distract one of the Australian defenders and pull them off Gumedi.
McMahon stops on the drive to the circle. Reassess the options. Bomberto. And through 3 sets of fingers, if you like.
Yeah, poor feed then, because Kath Cox really wasn't sure how much space there was behind her. It was up for Nat Bomberto to let her know that with the feed. So a little bit of uncertainty.
Chatfield taking her share of rebounds here. McMahon. And Cox once more. 6 goals in 4 minutes for Australia, and it's been 4 for South Africa, so not a bad start with the second term. Sustaining the effort for 60 minutes will be another requirement, I'm sure, from Marlene Wagner. Wouldn't have been happy with that hammering in the last quarter in Adelaide. on a number of fronts. Gomedi. Fingertip control and not afraid from that range.
This is about the mark where South Africa started to lose their focus last test in Adelaide. As we look at Cindy Gomedi's shooting, in fact, neither shooter really hitting their mark in this third test for South Africa, and gosh, that could really change the story in this game. It's about this mark they start to fall off their task and lose concentration.
Natasha Chocolate picked up the loose ball, and now South Africa with Janse van Rensburg caught out.
I'd be interested to see if Marlene Wagner stays with the same 7 for a longer period in an effort to reduce the overall scoreline. Catherine Cox shooting at 75%. McMahon the most accurate on court at 88. Whilst we haven't really seen a main 7 for Australia, there is an inkling that Norma Plummer has gone to experience in this match. When you look at the bench, with the exception of perhaps Anderson, Selena made a debut in this series. Fellows and Gerard are also the less experienced of the Australian squad. Consider too Ali Broadbent being rested from the series. She re-enters the picture. Some
of the hands are just a bit sloppy, both sides at the moment. And I don't think either coach would be 100% happy with just the strength in the catch. Cox. So the lead pushed out to 12. Masuali finds Dutoy. Mashoga. There's a lot of give and go and then stop from South Africa, and it's just maybe they're stopping their run a little, and it's presenting an obvious option for Australia in defence.
Well, the give and go comes from the centre pass. Most of the South African mid-quarters love the double play, and they play off each other. But, of course, it comes a little unhinged if Gomedi isn't readily available on the next ball. And against an Australian defence, it's not going to be available instantly. You have to work for it. Seema Shoga with the loose ball and a quick hands to Gomedi.
Cox to restore the 12-goal lead and push her stats back up towards 80%. Both McMahon and Cox earlier in the match were in the 80s, and both have 14 goals. Malusi. Gomedi leads out.
Well, Mashoga's dancing behind the Australian defence, and that's not much use to South Africa. They can't go over the top to her. She needs to front cut, try and take some of the impact away from Gomedi.
It was caught for obstruction there by Vincent Ong on the far side. Bomberto, Cox, looking for Avellino. It's a penalty out of Dutoy. Offside, she was. Karen Centre. Malusi.
Yeah, again, Mashoga has to really put a move on to split the Australian defence. If that doesn't happen, they must swing the ball feeder to feeder until it opens. They're just stalling, and Australia playing a smart game, but the Australian defence not really needing to change their pattern. It's very effective as it is.
Chatfield to Cox. She looked very confident on that shot. Not even a movement towards the post for a possible rebound. Banking on its accuracy. Fake to Bomberto from Cox. Avellino having a good tussle with Charlene Dutoy.
As is Sherelle McMahon with Alicia Janse van Rensburg. Very physical contest there.
They probably maybe started the series out a little too kindly. They weren't going to mix it on a physical level with the Australians, but have got a bit gamer across the matches.
Short pass called, and fair call as well. Doesn't matter whether you place it to the side behind or use the bounce. If there's not room for that third player to move between the two hands, receiver and giver, it's a short pass. Good call.
McMahon working with Bomberto. And Cox and McMahon still going stride for stride, goal for goal, 15 apiece for Australia's 30 from 37. And the lead out to 14.
Contact on the ball, go defense, head it. Pass or short, yeah.
After 3 in a row from Australia, Gamedi replies.
Straight out.
Looks like she's working pretty hard out there.
I think she's frustrated as the ball's been approaching. She's been gesticulating and calling out. She's struggling because she can't free herself of the Australian defenders, and just a little disappointed there's not more happening from the others around.
Slightly troubled look from Catherine Cox. She needn't worry too much. She's got it up to 80% at 16 from 20. Maswali.
A lot of work being done by Natasha Chocolate to hold Mashoga out of the game, and South Africa don't read it. They had a girl free.
There was Malusi on this side, absolutely open, but the Australians have returned the favour, thrown it away. And Karen Fenter. 4.5 to go in the second. Malusi. Swali. And just stops the momentum. And Liz Ellis comes out looking and tips it to the favour of Chocolate.
Inexperience from Janse van Rensburg, who opened the arm up, telegraphing what she'd do, and then let a slow delivery come through the air. It was made for Liz Ellis.
It's turnover city, though. The Australians have given it straight back to Toy. And that intercept count was 7-0 at quarter time. It's 11-1 now to Australia.
And that's the difference. While both of them are throwing a lot away, Australia is at least able to intercept to regain possession. South Africa not as effective.
Gamedi not too quick off the mark, although she maybe expected a teammate to chase that loose ball. Kath Cox.
That's not even insulting when it's a comparison comment when there's so many fast girls out there. I mean, you look at the pace of the midcourt on both teams. Nada Velino, I understand, is the fastest of the Australian lot across 5 metres.
Really?
Yeah. My question is, how many times can she keep that up? What do you think Nat will say? Always. Always, Annie.
So, Mashoga to Gamedi. 3 to go in the second quarter, 51-18. So Australia will be looking for a late burst of goals here. They've only scored 12 for the quarter, which is low by their standards in this series.
Well, they posted 37 by half-time in Adelaide, but it was 42, test number 1 in Perth. So if you're going to set the benchmark early, you need to make sure you can maintain it or better it.
So Marlene Wagner will go back much the richer, I'm sure, after this tour. And 12 months, as we say, almost exactly for the teams to work on their game before appearing here in Melbourne Commonwealth Games. Gee, we could get a mixture of weather. Last weekend it was raining for parts of the Grand Prix weekend, and today it's up over 30 degrees, I think. As Melbourneites and visitors often say, if you don't like the weather in Melbourne, just wait a couple of minutes. But I think it's not a bad month to be holding it. Autumn in Australia is a lovely month.
What's the new concept being tried by Netball in Australia to try and separate the international phase from the National League phase of the year, out of respect for the players and their commitments and being torn in a few different directions. So I think the players overall pleased to see the demarcation.
Ellis takes another. She's timing those runs nicely, shutting down the spaces. Avellino and DeToy contesting. Came up with Mswali, Malusi.
Better play by South Africa once they were denied access to Gamedi.
Mashoga giving instructions and a held ball. Just took too long.
I think she was asking Gamedi to stay still. Gamedi hadn't recognised that the Australian defence had gone back to one-on-one, which left Gamedi just to rival her own opponent. And if she'd stood still, the high ball was going to reach her.
Susan Meany, Australian player in temporary retirement to look after duties of motherhood impending. What, June, July?
It's an epidemic. It's one of 3. Both Susan and Peter Scholl sidelined and each expecting their first child this year. And announced this week, Janine Illich also pregnant. She and Roger expecting their second child in September. Companion for 3-year-old Damon. And Marg Molina, Australian manager, just being rested from that position at the moment. And I think most of the Australian netball audience will send her love to the Molina family. They were caught up in the tsunami disaster earlier this year, so great to see her at the netball. She should know that so many of us constantly have her in our thoughts. Caretaker duties going to Carol Byers. Haven't heard any complaints yet.
No. Last moments of the first half in the final test as McMahon goes looking for it. And that goal does not count, although it was pretty casually and coolly and accurately taken, but not one that'll count.
Worked Gomedi well in the first half, and she was less effective, so change the style.
Underway. Third quarter. Final test. So Masuali still there. Alberto and Sin O'Neill on for Australia. We'll just take you through these changes first of all. And Sin O'Neill comes on at goal attack, replacing Sherelle McMahon, who we've mentioned is still looking after her ankle after surgery. So Sin O'Neill was a little off target in the second test in Adelaide, but we know there's much better possible coming from her shooting arm.
I think we made the comment in the second test. She's such a talented young player, and one of the things for a shooter, if it's not coming sweetly out of the hand, is not to overthink it. As soon as you start on court in the match to deconstruct the shot and give it too much thought, it doesn't come, it just flops. So she just needs really not to think about it in the game, because she's got it all there.
And for South Africa, as we mentioned, Hellman and Markgraf up front, replacing Gomedi and Mashoga. And Tabi Mawabi has come on to replace another sort of pocket rocket in the mid-court, Simi Malusi. Play a similar style of game. Malusi and Mawabi. And I think when they're on at centre and wing attack, they're blessed with speed, but Masuali's got a bit sort of street nous at wing attack, so she's holding that position at the moment. Toy, Masuali, Hellman. Mawabi.
Mon, interesting the change with Gomedi going to the bench and Markgraf taking the court, but as a defender from your background, I'll set you up for it. It does make sense to change the attacking style, given how effective the Australian defence was on restricting Gomedi.
I think perhaps the Australian defenders are grateful for the chance of not having to just keep jumping up and down for the next 30 minutes. So perhaps a little more groundwork is going to be expected from Christine Markgraf in that goal shooting role. But I think perhaps Gomedi was just short of the mark today. She looked a little bit tired. The ball was falling short of the post. But it is a chance for Marlene Wagner to expose Christine Markgraf against the Australian side. You'd want to come all this way and test your player for at least a half.
Markgraf played against England end of last year. She teamed up with Manzo Mashoga in that third test. So again, a different combination. This time it's with Lausanne.
And Hellman, yeah, and Markgraf has just popped in her first goal. Maybe for her sake, there's quite a few more to come in this last test. Who's got possession? Contact goes against Fenter.
Yeah, that was a little unnecessary. I thought she was a tad late in on the challenge and wanted to go on with it, but at least there's spirit and there's contest there.
Swali to Dutoy. Dutoy's played every quarter so far. The only player for South Africa to do that. Up until Gomedi was replaced at halftime here, she'd played all minutes available. Neil. Bit of encouragement for Sin O'Neill from her teammates. They just recognise she's a little bit down on confidence. They're going to make sure that they know they've got confidence in her.
She's such a sweet mover. Put her in the class of Megan Anderson and Nat Avellino, and just the way she sweeps the court, it's effortless. And lightning hands.
Look at the numbers here for Australia. They got a 5-on-1.
That's what Karen Venter was looking at. Oh my gosh, here it comes, and no dark green uniforms in front of me.
Avellino, Cox. And Avellino makes so many things seem simple about the game, even when it's under pressure. Just as casual as you please.
Well, what 6 months or so she's had, Nat Avellino, from the desert.
It's extraordinary journey, really, from not even being allowed to play in Australia to being re-invited back into the Australian team after many years out, and today playing her 16th Test match. Oh, Sinner Neal making a contribution in defence. You want to have 7 defenders when you don't have the ball.
Oh, it's a tough and a long way round the entry to the circle for South Africa at the moment. Hellman does the loop, did most of the running in that entire passage. They just can't finish. It was like hitting a brick wall. They couldn't penetrate the Australian defence, and I think South Africa just taking a moment to adjust to significant changes in their 7.
It's a 5-1 start to the 3rd quarter for Australia. As Hellmund and Chatfield match up. Turnovers are hurting South Africa in this match. 31-16 against them. Oh, Avellino. Oh, Detoy somehow kept that in.
Detoy and Fenter are tough, hard workers for South Africa. I've not seen any moment in any of the tests where they've really relinquished the contest. It's interesting, though, as was the case in the 2nd test, as soon as the changes have come for South Africa, their mid-court defence has fallen away, and the last few passages for Australia have been as if they were fast break plays on a turnover, uncontested through the middle.
Masuali to Markgraf. No, she won't shoot from the baseline. She's got clobbered by Ellis. One of the less subtle challenges. Nice and high on the shot. Ellis the rebound.
The last word.
It's usually mine. Bomberto. Cross to Natasha Chocolate. So we've still got the 3 Nats in the midcourt. Whoops. A gasp from the crowd in disappointment. Just the 1 goal so far in this 3rd quarter from South Africa. As the changes have upset their attacking rhythm. Hellman. Oh, no, didn't really give her centre, Tabi Mawabi, much of a chance with that ball. Chocolate. Bomberto. And a couple of these South African players just walking a little slower out of attack into defence.
A couple of them have stopped.
So Neal with the attempt. Short, but a good rebound from her.
It's interesting, the performance level of South Africa just at this moment. As a coach, you'd almost be willing some kind of stoppage for injury. Not that you'd wish the injury on anybody, but to give you a chance to change and pull the reins again, to say, well, hang on, you were given a chance, it's walking pace, let's swing it back. Halfway through the 3rd, and the wheels are starting to fall off.
Mawabi. Back to Fenter, Detoy. Tireless worker, Charlene Detoy. Markgraf. Oh, how did that come out? Look good. Chocolate. To Avellino. When one team makes just a couple of changes, it can throw off the whole pace of the game.
Great shot by Catherine Cox there, who's just put through Australia's 6th goal. Australia on a run of 6, but that was great command by Kath Cox. It had been messy play and disrupted. It was quite a long-range shot. She thought about the offload and then thought, no, I'll put it to the goal, and that's exactly what you need at that end of the court.
Oh dear, that's asking for trouble. A little lateral high ball like that, but fortunately a penalty. Marlene Wagner just shouting out instructions actually to Lisanne Hellman as she ran past.
Bianca Chatfield locked herself into a one-on-one chase, had very clean, good inside position, came up with both the penalty and the intercept. This is reminiscent of the final quarter in Adelaide, where Australia really put the foot down and South Africa started to look a little tired.
Mawabi Back to Masuali. Hellman trying to get back in the circle. Markgraf is there and swings it on.
South African shooters rotating the circle then, and it worked well for them.
Just their second goal of the quarter, and it's they got 5.5 minutes to go. Neil. And a loose ball picked up by Janse van Rensburg.
Great choice by Dutoit. It was almost drawn laterally to Tabi Mawabi. That would have been a disastrous choice. She thought about it, swung it down. They've got to look down towards their goal, not sideways.
Neil. I think South Africa might have turned up a couple of good players on this tour that they mightn't have been sure about whether they could run at this level. And I know they're being heavily beaten here, but Janse van Rensburg, you know, in a year or so, if she can stay in the team, playing just a second international today.
I think she's been fantastic. I thought there was a real lift in the defensive performance for South Africa once she entered in that second test. And I think she works well with Venter. They're both tough and strong. They'll work the ground hard.
Good ball from Dutoit to find Masuali. Mawabi through Markgraf.
Had to wonder then the way that came down the court, which was just beautiful weather. Cindy Gomedi one-on-one would have been the answer under the post.
Oh, sure, but you can understand got to give the other players a go. Markgraf hadn't had a touch until this third quarter of the last test. Oh, Venter's kept it in. Not Venter, sorry, Hellman. Hellman it is. Looking for Markgraf. Chatfield and the post making sure it didn't get there.
It was a forced pass. It wasn't on. It needed more exploration around the edge before they could pick up Markgraf. That really wasn't, in her defence, something she should have been able to pick up.
Pretty well read by Janse van Rensburg. The low ball was coming towards Kat Cox. Short on the attempt. And a South African ball. Sometimes it ain't pretty.
It wasn't pretty, but it was smart work in blocking the rebounding space on Catherine Cox, and it didn't incur a penalty, so it was good work from the South African defence duo.
Hellman. Back up from Dutoit. That's happened a lot. Markgraf. Masuali, the skipper. Netball fans here at the State Netball and Hockey Centre with little clappers making a bit of noise across the match. Hellman. Having to work hard to get it into a shooting position in possession.
I was just wondering how many passes they'd used up until that point, but Liz Ellis stopped my count.
Neil Bomberto trying to make sure that wasn't a short pass, actually backed away, and then a South African hand got to it anyway. Masuali picks up a loose ball. Markgraf to Mawabi. Hellman. Keep working it around. Someone's going to get caught with a hell ball. They've been hit for that maybe 3 times in the match so far. Contact against Ellis. Didn't give Markgraf much of a chance there. 24 the lead. South African throw in. Under 2 minutes left in the third. A 10-3 quarter to Australia. It's been a scrappy third quarter.
Well, neither coach would be overly impressed with...
They don't look like they are either, do they? Jane Searle and Norma Plummer for Australia.
No, what you want when you send the players out is to be able to maintain the intensity and the rhythm. Both sides have lost momentum in this quarter.
As Marlene Wagner watches the ball swing down in Australian attack once more. Almost as fast as a neck can turn. And Sarah Neal's sitting on 5 from 11, so it's not really been a happy quarter for her. Markgraf over Ellis. Oh, and Chatfield takes another rebound. And she has 5, leading rebounder for Australia, and Janse van Rensburg has 5 for South Africa. Cox
There's a little disorganised in the circle for Australia. In the end, Neil offers a screen for a high ball to Cox, was probably the quickest way to resolve the problem, but it wasn't set up to be that way initially.
Avellino, Neil.
Plenty of Australian players are warming up in the tunnel. Fellows, Gerard and Gilsonen all warming up, so perhaps more changes to come.
So last 20 seconds of the third quarter. And a low-scoring one for South Africa might actually be their lowest of the series. They had 7 in the last quarter against in Adelaide. It was against Australia's 29 goals. And that's probably all we'll see as Vincent Ong blows time for 3 quarters. The only thing in question is the margin. And the eyes of the experts on the performance of all players. They'll work out who's ready to bring it home. Coaches want to see a fully committed final 15 minutes always, Annie.
Particularly after a less than impressive third quarter. They'll want to see the fourth quarter really rectify the total. Obviously, no room for panic, no need for panic. But when it comes to convincing wins, it means that every quarter is compared closely. So players are working for that quarter total.
No change in the shooters except they've swapped positions, if I can put it that way. So Cox out to goal attack, Neil goal shooter. I didn't put it very well, did I?
So no, you mean they've changed it?
Yeah, but they haven't been subbed. They haven't been subbed, they've been changed. That's better. Chocolate is at centre, so Nat von Berto gets a rest. And on comes Selena Gilsonen at wing defence, and Selena, her third cap for Australia, so congratulations for her. She's had a long time in waiting for an opportunity at this level, and she's disappointed no one.
Strong take by Sinner Neil, and the goal to follow. So a good reward for nice play for the young Australian shooter.
I think she's dealing with a couple of variables, Sinner Neil. Like, she's admitted that she's changed her action, and we know she's dropped a little weight. She's probably fitter than she's ever been. But, you know, golfers say if they suddenly go crazy and decide to get very fit, it changes their swing. I remember Craig Parry saying, I tried to get fit once and I couldn't hit the ball.
Maybe it's Sinner's golf.
No, nor am I saying that Sinner was carrying Craig Parry's kind of weight. But I'm simply saying that the dynamics can change for athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, too, it's early days. It's the beginning of 2005. Some players need the rhythm of week in, week out netball. Yeah. She'll embark on her National League responsibilities soon enough, and it might just be having more court time. She settles back into her own rhythm as a player. She's
doing a lot of running, and it's seen a little bit of weight fall away. She's left it on the road somewhere.
Well, she looks great.
Sure does. Gilsonen. Cox, one long right arm, good enough to haul it in.
Oh, another great take by Sinner Neil, and the angle's nice for Australia as they work it down court. Offside call, though, robs them of possession. No, it's a penalty against Kath Cox.
Toy got a hand to it. Keeps South Africa in possession. Helmand. All right, not sure who she was looking for, but she found Natasha Chocolate. Avellino. Skipped past Gilsonen all the way to Chatfield, and I don't know if it looks a lot tidier than the third quarter so far, early days. 3 minutes of the last. And 53-24. Australia scored the last 5. And no goal from South Africa in this last quarter yet.
Timing out for Australia. Catherine Cox persisting on the hold, but Avellino misreading the moves between the shooters.
Well, even if the scoring dries up here for South Africa, they're going to be well past their lowest ever total against Australia, which was 22 goals 4 years ago. Wouldn't want to revisit that kind of total. But the Australian defensive effort is probably what is bringing Norma Plummer most joy. Yeah?
I think so. I think it was a great first half performance against Cindy Gomedi. It forced the change in the South African forward line at half-time. Certainly kept her much quieter than we've seen in other matches. And I guess the same could be said of the South African defence in restraining Australia's attacking flow.
Ellis, a rebound. Yeah. Margraf, I think, thought there might have been a hand on her shooting hand. And it's quickly down the other end for Neal's attempt. Well done, well run down. She's well liked here in Melbourne, being a Kestrel. But that's a couple of misses for her. And a backup from Cox. Moabi. Helmand finds Margraf, who was looking for a taller player than Moabi. Chocolate. Now Cox back to that player, Neal. This time, yep.
Sweet shot. Yeah, a bit of work being put into that Avellino by Charlene du Toit. It doesn't go unnoticed.
They know each other pretty well by the end of this series, with Avellino having a lot of court time and du Toit playing every quarter. Neal almost exasperated by what's going on at the post for herself.
I think even her facial expressions indicate she's backing out of the mission. Probably 2 or 3 shots ago, very casual on the second attempt, and now almost looks like she'd like to walk away from it.
Well, it's a challenge for her and the coaching staff to get back that usual accurate shot.
But, you know,
it won't be far away.
Exactly, and too much can be made of it. As we said earlier, she's just a brilliant player, and she has a wonderful shot. It's all there in place.
Margraf trying to shoot over Chatfield. Cool. Chatfield's giving her a torrid time.
Margraf is 4 from 10 since coming on at half-time. Hellman at 50% with 2 from 4.
So 6.5 minutes to get their first goal of the last quarter, South Africa.
If you add that to the third quarter, they've scored between them 6 goals across the second quarter. The third quarter and...
6 goals in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Moabi with a centre pass for South Africa. Under 8 minutes left in the game in the series. Margraf, Helmand. Chocolate trying to get a fingertip to it. Margraf. I have nightmares about Chatfield, but sweet memories of that shot.
Brilliantly timed jump, though, from Bianca Chatfield. She's really working the timing. It's a great jump. She's worked out whether to go lean or a pounce or a jump, and the jump to great effect on Margraf. You can see she's been stepping back from the shot.
Janse van Rensburg the rebound. Swali. Back to Janse van Rensburg. The toy. Cool. Ambitious and successful. Now Margraf. Not quite. Chatfield again.
Drag, center, drag, landing foot. Center first. The other side.
It's a footwork problem for one of the Australians there.
Well, she was in flight. It's not often you see a drag call against somebody in fluent motion.
Margraf. Swali uses the ball to advantage. Helmand. Just still 2 goals for South Africa last quarter. 6 minutes left, and Australia's only added another 9 as well. So I think Norma Plummer or Marlene Wagner will put this one as down as a one to treasure. Some opponents are just awkward, though, flat out awkward.
Well, they're two contrasting styles of play, and it is at the end of the series. I guess tiredness, travelling, whole range of elements probably come into the mix. Plus the fact that players are being swung on and off the court, so there's all those elements to consider. Mind you, with all of that, some shine and some don't shine quite as much.
Masuali. Oh, chocolate, brilliant. Neil. Long way out and taken in by Karen Fenter.
Turnover goes to the South African defence. With all the changes made to both sides, the South African defensive trio has remained unchanged, and I think both you and I were impressed by them at the start of that second test.
I think they've combined relatively well considering the scoreline currently and the style of play. It is becoming rather erratic and untidy out there, but there seems to be some consistency with du Toit. She has been inspirational at wing defence, in my opinion. She has never relented in that position. And Karen Venter and Alicia Janse van Rensburg have really established a good combination.
Have to endorse that, particularly given how they've restricted Australia's scoring rate in the third and to an extent in this final quarter.
4 minutes to go in the third test, 60-26. First two test totals for Australia were 77 and 82, so they've been restricted somewhat. Avellino.
All arms up before distance, which I think we've commented on a few times. It's been a bit of a trade of the South African defence. It's gone unnoticed at times, picked up at others, but not a willingness, as the rules dictate, to retreat as soon as an opponent takes possession. Stay inside that boundary as much as they can.
30 from 38 for Catherine Cox. Just as the play was being reset a few seconds ago, we saw an Aussie rules hand pass from Natasha Chocolate, and we mentioned the players are off to watch the pre-season final tonight of Australian rules football in Melbourne. Probably looks a very strange game to our Super Sport viewers in South Africa, but it's big time here in Melbourne and in the southern states and Western Australia and growing elsewhere. Bit of a challenge to rugby and league and soccer. And it'll be quite an education, I think, for the South African players to go and watch a game firsthand of Australian rules. Masuali.
Great movement to the circle edge by South Africa, just let down by loose hands.
Maybe the 5th held ball call in the match. And that, again, underlines the strength of the Australian defence in this match. Avellino to Kath Cox. 31 from 39. Let's get down to the last couple of minutes.
62 the total for Australia. They managed 82 in Adelaide. 20-goal difference will be good news for the South African defence, and probably won't be received quite as well in the Australian camp. So mixed messages for both sides in areas of success and areas to be worked on.
Hellman looking for Mark Graf. Ellis picks up. Chocolate. Oh! Oh, that was a clumsy one from du Toit, whose praises we were just singing, and could have seriously injured Sinna Neal. She was travelling. And, my goodness, that was a bad one.
Very poor decision made by Charlene du Toit, who really didn't have a thought for the attacking player and landing space and player safety.
Didn't like what we saw of Sinna Neal's knee there, which was hyperextended, and du Toit just made a bad choice.
Well, you can see it was made out of passion and,
sure,
you know,
yep,
or for the good reasons of trying and wanting to keep the game going. But, yeah, In simple terms, a very poor choice, misjudging space and speed.
I'm okay, says Sinanil. We hope so. Wayne Rogers is out there in a hurry. That was potentially a nasty one. And another apology from Dutoy.
You see there, Dutoy did have the angle and the vision to see what was happening, just made a bad choice. But as you said, Steve, thankfully, no injury from it. Although Sinanil may have seen a light flash before her eyes for a moment.
Yeah. With a surgeon's knife. But again, we'll say Dutoy was very keen to apologise for a mistimed challenge. Helmand.
Fakes to nobody. And back plays, almost a habit.
Gilson to Neil. Moving well enough. Chocolate.
Great shot from Sinanil. She's been putting on the lead for the last couple of plays and recovers nicely from a heavy fall.
Maswali. Helmand. Last minute of the series. And Australia expected to win the match as well. They've done that. I don't know if more questions have been raised than answered.
I think all in all it's been a defender's game.
Yeah.
Both sides, defensive combinations have done some good work on their opposing forward lines, and for both sides the margin will end up pretty well where it's been, about the 40-goal mark. But for both sides, far fewer goals than in previous tests.
And just 3 goals in the last quarter for South Africa, so I think they've probably learnt that they really need Gumedi as the spearhead. Had to give Markgraf and Helmand a go in combination. As Vincent Ong ends the 3rd test and the Australia-South Africa series with a 66-27 result for the home side. So not quite the 40 goals. Normal Plummer